for the quality accreditation and beyond, the winds of change, we have seen all the stuff. To give wings to that idea, I now call upon Rama Madam to take the concluding session. Over to you, Madam.
Yeah, thank you, Raj. Yeah. So very interesting presentations by the previous panelists and speakers. Almost they have covered multiple facets of this quality management systems journey, quality accreditations, and all those frameworks. Am I audible? Perfect. So the final topic is about the winds of change. So when we talk about a change or a change management or whatever it is, there has to be a old method and there has to be a new method, or an old way or a new way. A change happens somewhere as a transition between these two things. So the winds of change did happen in the Indian healthcare quality management scenario. I will just explain to you about how the quality journey in the healthcare scenario happened in our country, or started the journey maybe about 2 decades ago, because Indian healthcare system, when we're talking about quality accreditations and all those things, maybe I would say it all started with NABL, because NABH came much later. So let's talk about the journey, 2 decades journey. The first 20 years, I mean the last 2 decades ago, when the quality journey started in this healthcare domain, it was a voluntary exercise. Okay, healthcare organizations opted for quality as a voluntary initiative. Nobody asked them to do it. They really wanted, it was new to the domain and new to the sector, and they started off with implementing the original initiative, or the early initiative started off with the ISO certifications. I still remember the hospitals. I'm just talking about almost about 20 years ago. Okay, in this, that was early stages of my consulting period. We could see a lot of hospitals opting for ISO 9001 and 14001 and OSHA's certifications. Those days, many hospitals have implemented all the certifications before the accreditations kick-started in the country, because hospitals were competing with the other sectors and the other domains like manufacturing and IT, ITS and other services space. And they also wanted to showcase their commitment towards quality, but all these initiatives were purely voluntary. Nobody asked them to show a certificate or get the certification done. I guess around the same time, the country started having a rollout of this accreditations. Maybe the first accreditation Dr. Rana must be knowing was NABL. NABL is almost about 20 years old in the country, or 20 plus years old in the country now. That was the journey when all the medical testing laboratories in the country, at least the matured ones or slightly organizations with better management systems in place, they started looking at accreditation seriously. That's how the NABL came into picture, and then NABH is about 15 years old in the country now. That's it, and NABH came much later. Around the same time, if you had seen in the healthcare industry or the healthcare space, because I still remember looking at some of these healthcare institutions pitching for those business excellence. These are all the maturity tools. Organizations with a lot of maturity, they used to matured management systems, matured business practices, did opt for business excellence. And I still recall IMC Ramakrishna Bajaj National Quality Award is still one of the finest quality awards that we have in the country, and it is also based on the Malcolm Baldrige excellence model from US. Around the same time, those days CII used to do EFQM model. I do remember actually. Okay, so EFQM is the European Foundation for Quality Management. These are all the business excellence tools. Some organizations did attempt or did work towards all these initiatives. Again, as I said, nobody asked them to showcase or demonstrate their commitment towards quality. This journey, this 20 years ago, it was purely voluntary. They just wanted to evaluate their strengths and evaluate their quality management systems, and that's how they all started their journey. Around the same period, we did have those international accreditations in the market. Again, in the medical labs space, it is CAP, the College of American Pathologists, which did have a very good presence in our country. Many standalone labs and hospital attached laboratories do go for CAP accreditation. That is also an international validation on their laboratory practices, accreditation practices. Then we did, industry did have JCI in the country. We did have Australian healthcare systems, and ACHS was one of the accreditation bodies from Australia. They did have their presence in the country. See, during this phase, if you see, there was an upward focus. In this picture, if you can see, there is an arrow on the left-hand side. So there was an upward focus. A few of them were competing with each other to demonstrate their commitment, to demonstrate their superiority, to demonstrate their the finesse in the quality space. And there was a maximum quality focus and a maximum fever in the country about 20 years ago. Next slide, please. And then what happened? Let us talk about the last 1 decade. And you can see a change, a shift in the marketplace attitude and approach towards the same quality. And if you see the bar on the left hand side, there is a downward direction. The change is actually moving downwards. And this was the era the country did experience all those mandatory announcements, mandatory suggestions coming from various quarters, let it be your insurers or let it be your central government health insurance companies or whoever it is, you know. This is the period when the industry was thrust upon this mandatory certification tags, and this was the time, the last 10 years, in the ecosystem, all these mandatory regulatory announcements, they felt that the bar of accreditation is too high. So when you say an accreditation, the competency levels are supposed to be very high, and your matured business practices, your matured systems have to be very high. So they felt that the bar was too high on the in the form of accreditations. That is when the country headed towards going back to the original phase, where you remember when we started the journey, we used to have those certifications, ISO 9, all those ISO standards. So what happened was the country said, okay, in the healthcare domain, let us have our own sector-specific certifications. So that's when we had this rolling out or initiation of those certification programs by NABH. This is what the market has witnessed, and of course they did come out with multiple certification programs for many other sectors. You do have a medical laboratory certification program, radiology centers, like that. You know, you have many for various sectors. There is some certification program or other is available. Around the same time, they felt that again the accreditation bar is again too high. The hospitals may not, all the hospitals may not fit into the accreditation. So let us start with a basic accreditation program. So originally it was called, they used to call it as a pre-entry level accreditation and all that. Subsequently, it is actually not an accreditation program. This entry level is a certification program. So it is redesigned recently. And so then that is when we started experiencing this. Okay, entry level will do. We do not need an accreditation. What the market needs is a basic quality program. So that's how your NABH and NABL entry level certification programs were introduced to the market. After that, what happened? The Clinical Establishments Act implementation started happening. The CEA came into the picture, and then the regulator said, no, we need only a minimum quality for the healthcare organizations. So what we will do is we will introduce a minimum standards or a minimum quality, and this is enough, so that we wanted to cover all the healthcare organizations to develop a focus on quality, or to develop an appetite for quality. And then around the same time, the government of India's the Ayushman Bharat came out with its own certification schemes. However, this is the era where many things, all these initiatives, most of these initiatives, programs that I'm talking about, which were introduced, rolled out in the last 10 years, had some regulatory linkage or a connect, and hospitals or the healthcare organizations felt that, okay, fine, this has become a business requirement. My regulator is asking, or my empanelment team is asking, I need to register with this agency. So somewhere it felt that we could pick up signs in the marketplace that, you know, it has become a kind of a mandatory requirement. It's like, I need to have a license to do my business, and so to get a license, there are formalities, I will do it. So the quality was kind of the journey during this last 1 decade. The commitment of the organizations, or their outlook, I would say, it has drifted towards a minimum quality focus, and this is a clear change that all of us could see as management system consultants. At least some of us who have been in the domain for more than 20 years, and none of us were happy about this journey also. Next slide, please. So this was the era, as I said, you know, everybody said quality is for all. Now you don't define only they are category A is eligible to get an accreditation, or a category B is not eligible, or a category C cannot achieve it. So all the announcements were directed towards a taglines and the statements and the mantras that quality is for all. So we had all this combination of certifications and accreditations in the market, which are linked to, the moment you say quality, it is always linked to either an NABH certification, or an accreditation, or an NABL, and that's how the scenario has been. Now, the last 20 years, as I said, the last 20 years or the last 10 years, you find a lot of this healthcare organizations, even if it is a smaller fraction in the country, you find them with the certifications tags, accreditation tags. Some of them are under minimum quality, some of them are under maximum quality, or some of them are under basic quality management systems. So you find all of them certified with all those tags, and at least demonstrating their validation on their quality management systems. But did all this quality tags, all the certificates, did this tags or these certificates or these initiatives, did they really result in delivery of a good quality practices, or implementation of good management systems? By this definition, when we say quality for all, when all these institutions have really implemented all this, all their patients must be happy. They must be validating the quality demonstrated by the healthcare organizations. All the stakeholders must be happy. Did it happen? Whether it was the last 10 years or the last 20 years in the marketplace, whether all those demonstration of the quality certificates by the organizations should have made all their patients happy. Let us see whether it has happened or not. Next slide, please. So when you say quality, HCOs are talking about quality, and then the market immediately jumps in. The moment we say about quality, they jump in, oh, quality, it is NABH, or quality, it is NABL, or quality, it's a CAP, quality, it's a JCI, or it is a QAI, like that, okay? This is a fundamental definition. Quality has got many definitions, and I need not explain to any one of you. Most of you must have gone through batches and batches of sessions and orientation programs on this. Fundamentally, there is one definition, is at least the basic fundamental definition is, you need to meet your customers' requirements or their specifications or their needs. That's the whole quality definition. Is actually your quality management systems, your accreditation programs, your certification programs, everything is built around only this tagline. So it is about meeting your customer specifications. So all the healthcare organizations, as I said, you have certifications, you have accreditations. So which means that you must be addressing all your customer requirements or what their needs are or what their specifications are all about. If that was the scenario, why is it that the customers, your patients, are still unhappy at the marketplace? And why is it that they're making a lot of noises and they are discussing in all the forums, expressing their unhappiness about the many things that are happening in the healthcare domain? What is the reason for that? Maybe let us start addressing one by one all these issues. Next slide, please. So the focus of the healthcare organizations, every organization says that, you know, oh, we focus on our patient needs. Everything we are only here to serve them and then, you know, to understand and cater to their needs. What is it that the patients are asking? By and large, generally, you know, each one of us at the end of the day, you know, at some point of time in our lifeline, you know, we all become patients also. We need to wear that hat also. What is it that they are asking? The patient says, when I go to a healthcare facility for a treatment, I should be assured of a good quality care and a good services with good service standards. And whatever products that you use on me, or whether it is a drug or a device or whatever it is, or a consumable, invasive or non-invasive, my human body as a human being, I'm subjected to all these protocols the moment once I enter into a hospital. So we should get good quality products and services when we get treated. And we are paying the healthcare organizations only for the same. This is a very simple statement of a patient. So that is how, if you look at your structure of your healthcare, that it's a patient-centric, patient-focused exercise. The patient is in the middle, and the patient is surrounded by the touch point of a patient is always with a healthcare organization, be it a hospital, be it a lab, be it a clinic, or whatever it is. They only visit a healthcare organization to get treated. It is the healthcare organization which is actually connected to the external stakeholders. Whether you call them your services, suppliers of various services, or the suppliers of various products. So it is a healthcare organization which is connected to these external agencies. But all the services, whether it is a product or external service providers, they are all connected to the patient. See, all of them are at the end of the day, a product is used on the patient or the service is rendered to the patient only. And the patients are only saying that, you know, either way, whatever it is, when we get admitted, what we need is a commitment and assurance of safe care and a quality care, whether it is a product or a service. That's all it is. Next slide. Raj, next slide. Yeah. So, as I mentioned in the previous diagram, the patients are directed to use external service providers' services. So, for example, your health technology services, your online platforms, or where you ask a patient to go and get tested at a particular place to get a scan from outside, get a testing from outside, or get some basic investigation from outside. So, patients are directed to use the services of these external service providers. And when I'm talking about the products, the healthcare products, whether it is a medical equipment or a device or an instrument or an implant or a PPE, you call it whatever it is, okay? These are the healthcare products which are used on the patients, or they are used by the patients when they are prescribed by the doctors or maybe the treatment caregivers. So their patients are exposed to both this, availing a service or using a product prescribed by the healthcare facility. Now, all the certifications and accreditations that we're talking about, you know, NABH, NABL, ISO, whatever it is, okay, any of those standards, or a QAI or a JCI or whatever it is. Have you ever really thought about it, given a serious thought that this is the supply chain I'm talking about, whether it is an external service providers or the product companies who supply all these things to a hospital, and then hospital in turn asks the patients to make use of the services or use these products. This is part of your supply chain. Is your supply chain quality included in your organizational quality management system focus? Is your quality management system implementation exercise is inclusive in nature. Even a customer is your stakeholder, your suppliers are your stakeholders, and then there are various stakeholders for any organization. So is your quality management system inclusive enough to address all these touch points? And because a patient is subjected to this, the complete supply chain management, the moment he enters a healthcare facility for treatment, he is subject to all these touch points, and all these things are part of your supply chain management. But is this your QMS, whatever you have implemented, has addressed all this supply chain QMS also in the process? Next slide, Raj. So what has happened was, what is it that the patients are talking at the marketplace? What is it that they are discussing? Why is it that they are not happy, is what we were just discussing about in the previous slides. When the wind blows, it really blows hard and fast, and that's what has happened with the COVID-19 expose. And at least the COVID-19 good, bad, or ugly, as I said earlier, this has really pulled out and exposed the weaknesses in the system. And trust me when I say this, most of the things that I'm going to quote here are not just happening now. They have been in the marketplace for more than 10 years, 15 years. We all know, as management system consultants, we have been screaming from the rooftops. Okay. So when the wind blows, before the winds of change happens, what is happening? COVID-19 has really brought out, pulled out the skeletons. The external suppliers that I had shown in some of my previous slides, they were all quoting this. See, all these discussions, for example, very recently I had from our consultants association, we had a mandate from the industry wherein during the crisis period, we were asked to train many manufacturers who are supplying medical devices or PPEs to the industry, part of the crisis period. We were training batches and batches, almost about 300 manufacturers were trained by us on quality management systems and then patient safety focus. The standards there and management systems used by the manufacturers for medical devices are slightly different. Okay, so we had extensive interactions with them. And in addition, not only this, suppliers in the marketplace, what we had seen in the last 5 months or 4 months or whatever it is the feedback from the suppliers, and they are your important stakeholders also in your business, hospital business. One thing they all said unanimously in most of the conversations, discussions is healthcare organizations are buying substandard products from the supply chain, and supply chain is your vendors, where the quality is demonstrated by showcasing a fake or unauthentic QMS certifications by the vendors. Now, this is something an extensive. This is actually kind of opened up a Pandora's box. Not that we are not aware, and then the manufacturers went on asking. All the hospitals, predominantly most of them who are following these practices, claim that they are accredited by NABH, they are certified. What kind of an accreditation system that you have in place where your incoming goods, which is a very foundation of your, one of the sound principles of your quality management system, your incoming goods, their quality is not tested, or you simply go by the certificates which are demonstrated to you, not even checking the authenticity or genuineness of the certificates. And then what kind of a patient safety that you are promising? And trust me, these are the feedbacks which have come, which have actually come from the people who are supplying the products to the healthcare organizations. And all these questions they started throwing and asking in multiple forums. Last 3 months, 4 months, we were part of many forums and many industry engagements, and all these things are repeatedly thrown up and asked. What kind of an assurance or a patient safety initiatives that hospitals are promising under the name of an accreditation? What is NABH doing? Is it what they call it as an accreditation? Now, these are all the issues which are thrown in the marketplace. And patients, I need not tell all this. If anybody who's there in the digital forums and the digital platforms and the social media platforms or reading the newspapers and every day, whatever, all this, whatever I'm saying, it's all written everywhere in black and white. The patients are saying substandard goods products are bought for patients' use by the hospital procurement teams. But when the product quality is substandard, when it is not a premium product, but why we are charged a very high premium. But when the product quality is of a substandard quality in nature, and this is the voice of the patients. Next slide, please, Raj. The doctors, let me tell you honestly, I have personally handled so many queries, the kind of number of certificates that I had personally checked and started telling the doctors every day through WhatsApp, through mail, through social media channels. Doctors were asking, we're planning to buy this, all the certificates are shown to us. Somehow we are not happy about it. Somehow we are not clear whether these are genuine, and we need your help to identify and tell us whether the certificates are really genuine or not. Doctors started questioning about the authenticity of the certificates that are showcased to them in the name of global certifications, okay, for the products. ISO 13485, the CE marking, the WHO GMP, the US FDA, you name anything, everything is printed on the certificate, okay? When almost all these are unauthentic and fake certifications, as management systems consultants in the industry for so many years, working with sector agnostic space, we know that at least what is genuine and what is not genuine. And to be very honest, till the COVID crisis did happen, even if you really wanted to go and check in the marketplace whether the certificate is genuine or not, or where to check, there was no platform available, no portal available, nothing was available. Because of the COVID, now what happened was all the global registries, all the accreditation bodies or the certification bodies or the regulatory bodies in many countries have set up their search registries, search portals, asking the customers to check. Most of the products are being exported to other countries. So all the importing nations said, these are the search portals. Any goods entering into the country, just go and search the certificate numbers in the respective registries. If these numbers are found, the certificates are there, yes, they are genuine, otherwise not. Certain things, if you cannot verify, please write to so-and-so organization, which are the accreditation body, who will validate whether you're, it's a validated one or not. There are three types of all the certificates. One is authentic, a genuine, a validated one. The second one can be an unauthentic certificate also, nothing wrong, okay. Only thing is, they are not part of some international validation network, so they are not members of those international accreditation, all these accreditation bodies who issue the certificates. They have to be part of their international validation networks, which all of them need not be. But even those certificates, though they are unauthentic, which are not authentic, they are not validated ones. There is a third category, which is deadly combination, or the deadly one, which is your fake and fake certifications. So they are not, you find all the certificates with an ISO logo. ISO will never permit an organization to use an ISO logo in the first place. And no certification body will issue a certificate with the logo of an ISO. Okay, these are all printed by all these unscrupulous players and organizations who are sitting in the procurement portals of the healthcare. They do not have any experience or any exposure to this kind of verification mechanism and exercise. They do not know. If it's a CE marking, how do you verify that it's a genuine one or not? Whom do you write? If it is a 13485, where should you go and reach out? If it's a US FDA, where do you go and check? WHO GMP. And let me tell you, these are the four logos you find in all your vendor certificates. Majority of them, almost all of these are fake and unauthentic. Now the COVID-19 has exposed all these things now. This is not just a COVID crisis. As I said, we all know. At least 10-15 years, we have been screaming from the rooftop saying that the country is actually flooded with all these fake certificates in the market, and industry is buying all these things, and then these are going as your incoming goods. And in healthcare, these things are really viewed very seriously because we are playing with human lives. So the COVID has exposed all the serious gaps in the system, and not a single day goes by where you don't read all these things, where you don't find all these discussions happening in the marketplace. Next slide, please. So when the wind blows again, as I said earlier, earlier slides were related to the product companies. Now let me come to the external service providers of a healthcare institution. Okay, a healthcare organization, a hospital or a lab uses the services of various external service providers. Okay, you find a lot of healthcare organizations entering into business collaborations with external service providers for delivering patient care. They do not invest into many of this, and they go for a B2B tie-ups with the external service providers. So the external service providers are actually resorting to a lot of violations, misuse and abusing of the healthcare organizations credentials. Okay, so they use their logos, they use some test reports, they're using all these things which are actually a strict no as per your accreditation norms. So patients started demanding for accountability and ownership in such scenarios. It is a hospital which has directed the patient to go and use this telemedicine app, or to go and subscribe to our this thing in the online aggregators, or you go and use this EHR or NEMR or whatever it is. Okay, so in case something goes wrong, who is responsible? Who's got the accountability and the ownership? Because the external service providers are not part of your validation platform. You don't know anything about their management systems, their quality practices, or information security protocols, or whatever it is. What is it that you know? Have you audited their business, organization? Have you really checked with them whether they have got any such certifications or validations? So if you really, these are all the episodes which have come up now. The COVID testing has thrown open, kicked open such a big ruckus about this online health tech aggregators and portals misusing the lab's logos and release of the reports in a manner which suits them. Okay, and which are a clear violation of the accreditation norms and the rules that are defined by your accreditation bodies. Now, what is happening is, it is the communities who are using these all health tech aggregators and portals and platforms to subscribe to those services, and the platforms again claim that we are only an aggregator, so and so is our business partner, and all these facilities can be availed at so and so organization, so and so organization. So when something goes wrong, it's the patients who also started questioning the healthcare organizations about their collaborations with such of this ventures and the platforms, whether any kind of a validation, because they're part of your supply chain. Ultimately, you're asking the patient to go and use this, use that. You log in here, you log in there, and something going wrong, they will only come back to the healthcare organization and question, like, what is the validation you have done, evaluation you have done. So are they part of your supply chain quality management systems? At least some basic checking, you have to go and insist on certain certifications or whatever it is. Ultimately, at the end of the day, your certifications or accreditation or a third party validation that there are things in place. So that is why third-party certifications or accreditation certificates are very important in the industry. Next slide, please. So same thing, violation by the external service providers, misuse and abuse of patient information or patient data by third-party service providers. As I said, your EMR, EHR, or patient appointment scheduling platforms, CRM platforms, multiple apps, too many apps, in the marketplace. So what is it that we are asking is, the digital health tech companies, they have to rely on B2B tie-ups with healthcare organizations. By and large, predominantly, all these digital health tech companies, they are not B2C. They cannot approach patient communities directly and say, you subscribe to this, you pay for this. No, patients don't do. When it comes to healthcare or when it comes to patient care, patient only goes by what the treating doctor says or where the hospitals are directing them. So by and large, the majority of the health tech companies, they rely on a B2B tie-ups with the healthcare organizations for patient servicing. So they are part of your supply chain and their QMS matters too. So it is your responsibility as a healthcare organization to check and to insist, to ensure that your supply chain also is covered by the QMS. Next slide, please. So these are the common questions which are actually thrown. At least I keep fielding all these questions in most of the forums. Who has given the accreditation to this institution, organization? Won't accreditation calls for addressing all these issues that we are raising? What does it mean by accreditation to quality practices then? What is the meaning of the quality then? These are all the questions that are thrown in the marketplace, and there's a 360-degree dimension to this. Now, what is the meaning of quality then? The meaning of quality is meeting your customer specifications and customer requirements. And customers, at least, or the patients, they are very clear as to what they want. When they are subscribing to something, because there is a specification, they are agreeing for a specification, then only they are seeking a service. So they are very clear about their specification. Now, these are the questions the healthcare organizations should be prepared to answer. The next slide, please. So what is the new way? We were talking about the old way is 20-year scenario. What has happened? We have discussed, and the winds of change that was happening at the marketplace, and the problem statements that keep thrown in all the directions also I have shared. So what should be the new way? The focus should be on your supply chain quality. See, I will just give you a simple example of what has happened to the automotive industry about 20 years ago. Automotive industry, this is what I'm experiencing, what I'm seeing now in the marketplace in the healthcare scenario. I could quickly, easily connect myself with what has happened in the automotive industry when all of us have worked with this domain many years ago. Automotive industry, all the car manufacturers, car dealers, they all experience the same problem because the automotive manufacturers' product quality was questioned by the customers. Repeatedly, there were issues with the product, and there were periodic, frequent problem statements. The manufacturers really started digging deeper to address where exactly the things were going wrong. What has happened was when the manufacturing ecosystem was built in the country, even if you see in our country also, you find all the big automotive companies, car makers, by and large, they only assemble the products, but all the products, components, multiple components are manufactured by various vendors. The external service providers or the product companies, vendors who supply all these products to them. So the quality issues were actually traced to the issues in the supply chain, comprising of the vendors, the external service providers, quality. It was the quality of this external service providers and external suppliers, the vendors, which was ultimately affecting the product quality of the manufacturer. What they have done is all these automotive companies were actually subject to ISO certifications those days. So then what happened was it was a technical standard, like your NABH, how it is a technical standard for healthcare. Even automotive companies had a technical standard called TS 16949. You know what happened? All these manufacturers, associations, automotive associations, they have all joined hands together. They have created their own strong umbrella platform, which is basically, it is International Automotive Task Force, IATF it is called. They came out with one standard. They have only one standard, IATF 16949 it is called. It addresses the complete supply chain quality across the country. Across the country, you have a Ford here, you have a Ford in multiple countries. You have a Hyundai here, you have the same Hyundai manufacturing in multiple countries. The standards in the respective countries may be a little different, and their third-party assessments may be different. So what they have done is they have harmonized everything, beautifully integrated, aligned. Now the automotive industry has adopted this one technical standard for quality, which is inclusive in nature. Please understand, it is inclusive in nature, and it takes an absolute control of the quality of the entire supply chain. This is what has happened. This is exactly what the healthcare is experiencing today, because healthcare organizations have started really looking at things internally, within this, my functional departments, my processes, my systems, and all this. But then there are external touch points who are also contributing to the patient service and the patient safety. They have not really addressed all those things. They have not made all those things inclusive into the QMS, and that these are the things which are actually really hurting the organizations now. Next slide, please. A similar thing has happened. I will tell you the medical devices rules in the country now. The same supply chain management quality. I will just explain. I'm sure you all must be aware, because you're all in the healthcare space, that medical devices, all your medical equipments, medical devices, medical consumables, whatever you use in the country, now are brought under regulation from 1st of April 2020. Which means earlier all the medical products, healthcare products were not regulated. Very few were regulated. So for the first time in the country, we have medical devices regulations that are put in place. So the Drugs and Cosmetics Act is the act under which all the medical devices, drugs and devices are covered. The rules are Medical Devices Rules 2017. And the regulator is CDSCO, the Central Drugs Control Organization. He is the regulator. So all the medical devices, equipments, whether manufactured in the country or imported, distributors, traders, everybody is covered under regulation now. Globally, you all know that, in all the countries, medical devices are regulated, and there are very stringent regulations as far as drugs and devices are concerned, because they are used on the patients. So the Medical Devices Rules 2017 in India has mandated a quality management system implementation of all the manufacturers. Those manufacturers in the country, they have to implement their medical devices quality management system, which is, we call it as ISO 13485. That is, again, it is a technical standard for medical devices quality management system. That is why you find all the medical devices, you find for management system certification, it is ISO 13485. Product certification, globally, it is CE marking, which is recognized very well. And in Indian scenario, it is BIS certification actually. So what the MDR says is, it calls for mandatory implementation of QMS, not only for the manufacturing company, but for its entire supply chain too. If there are critical components, product companies, if there are critical components which are outsourced and which are manufactured by vendors from outside the system, and they are used in the process while making your finished good, the entire supply chain has to be certified to the same QMS implementation. So MDR says very clearly, small vendor, big vendor, large vendor, irrespective of whoever it is, the complete supply chain has to show its compliance to ISO 13485. And this is a very critical requirement, and the regulator said no compromise on this, because these are medical devices. So the supply chain cannot demonstrate the quality by showing this, as I said, fake QMS certifications anymore, because the Medical Devices Rules 2017 says very clearly, only authentic and validated certificates only will be accepted. So authentic and the ones which are validated. We have our National Accreditation Board, NABCB, which is under QCI, which is NABCB is a national accreditation body which controls all those agencies who issue certificates in the country. So validated, the certification bodies are very few. Rest of them are just floating around in the market where there is no validation. Nobody knows anything about them, their country of origin, and most of the vendors are from this space only, and they are the ones who are supplying all these products to the healthcare organizations and showing all the certificates. Now the healthcare organization, procurement teams, not knowing all these things, they ask for quality certification. They are looking at CE marking, US FDA, WHO, GMP. Yes, fair enough. We have chosen the vendors with all the certificates, but they are not the right certificates, that they have not checked. So medical devices rule said very clearly, authentic and validated ones as per the medical devices rules of 2017. Next slide, please, Raj. So the real winds of change you all can experience and you all can feel from now is, we really do not know whether COVID is going to be a game changer, or whether we all go back to our old ways of doing business, maybe after 6 months, after 1 year, none of us know. But one thing is very clear. Let me say this louder. Customers no longer go by the quality certificates that are displayed and showcased to them. Nobody is interested in looking at your quality certificates that you demonstrate. They go by their own experiences. You, as a user of the particular product or the service, they are going by their own user experiences, and they are going by the product performances, their own experience with the product. So these are the validate the quality of an institution. So as a seller or a product service provider of these products to your patients and customers, healthcare organizations now are equally responsible for product quality. And this is what the new product liability definition in the Consumer Protection Act 2019 says. The act is out now. It is coming to force from this about a week ago. So as a seller, when a healthcare institution is also selling a product to the patient, billing it on the patient, or a product service provider, a manufacturer may be somebody else, but you're the service provider of that product to your patient. So the organizations are responsible for the product quality. Act says very clearly, when the product fails to perform, when it is defective in nature, when it causes a harm to the patients and the users, all the service providers are also covered under the product liability definition with immediate effect now. So you cannot say that buyer beware. At least all along all these days, everybody is hiding under this statement that let the buyers beware. Not any longer, not anymore. It is seller beware time now. As a healthcare organization, you are procuring some products. It is your responsibility to doubly ensure that you need to really look into many aspects before you prescribe all these things to your patients. Otherwise, you are responsible as an organization. Next slide, please. So I guess this is the last one. Quality is not just accreditation. This is what we have been screaming for the last 10 years or 15 years. It is not just accreditation. It is much more. It is much more beyond your NABH, QAI, NABL, JCI, CAP, scope, whatever they offer. It is much more beyond all this. Quality is again meeting your customer specifications and customer requirements. Let us understand this. No paper certificates that you showcase will help any longer. No, people do not believe, they do not have any faith in all this. Only a good management systems implementation can help you. This is what Dr. Uma Shankar Raj was talking about. This is what Rahul Rao was talking about. This is what Mandakini Pawar was talking about. What really makes a difference and makes the users feel the difference is only a good management systems implementation. So this is an organization requires many management systems. Your NABH, NABL, these are only one of those tools basically. An institution, an organization requires, businesses survive, businesses thrive only by implementing management systems. So there are beautiful standards, national standards, international standards. We have many specs. Business has to use all these things, internalize it, train their employees, make their patients happy. You don't need a validation. You don't need a third-party certification validation for everything. So what matters, what really makes or breaks is how serious you are about your management systems implementation. That's it. Next slide, Raj. I guess that's it. So that's the winds of change. This is going to be the winds of change, and this is my forecast. At least you will recall whatever, at least some of the statements you'll keep recalling once in a while when you really face the scenarios and the situations. And all these things are inevitable if we don't really take care of our customers' voice. That's all. Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity, Raj, once again.
Thanks a lot. It was a really extensive insight about the winds of change. We all agree that there are the various certification, accreditation, and various other bodies, but it is going to be important that each of the employee in the organization start to understand servicing the customer, quelling the trust deficit gap is going to be the most important thing. Beautifully brought out by your presentation. Thank you very much. We are at the fag end of the session. I just happened to also inform that our next session is going to be on the healthcare marketing, branding, and communications in a VUCA world. It's a continuation of what we have discussed in quality, but more from the customer perspective of how we reach out to them through the branding and communications, and how we market our products. And many organizations are ailing, and this presentation is going to give you some good enough case studies and stories for implementation in your organization. Now, without any further ado, I'm just going to go for the closing comments from each of the speakers. While I do that, I would also post two questions which are ideal for you to address during your closing comments. What should people in healthcare quality, how should they design their career? I've just improvised on the question from Dr. Divya Rajput. She had specifically asked from the freshers point of view. But if the speakers can tell us how can, in your closing, as part of your closing comments, how can people make a career out of healthcare quality? Secondly, a specific question to Dr. Rana by a good friend, Dr. Pinkulal. ISQA surveyor training course and ISQA expert eligibility, if you can throw light. To start on your closing comments, I call upon Dr. Rana to start with it. I request all the panelists to switch on the webcam. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Raj. A wonderful session. Really enjoyed thoroughly. And as I mentioned in my opening remarks, which actually goes well, what I hear from Rama Madam, completely in agreement. The last slide, quality is misunderstood by most of us. Accreditation is now considered as the only quality tool. No, it's not. Quality starts maybe starting from there, but it has no end. You can keep traveling, talking, discussing. You will never reach the end, and that is what is to be understood very clearly. And also, it doesn't matter what, and that's why I personally, whether I was in NABL and NABH and now QAI, ISQA, I personally advocate that you should not be talking about accreditation certificate to achieve, which most of the organization and individuals are talking about. I'm sorry to say that upfront. People just like to want a certificate to hang on the wall. I always say, don't go for accreditation if you are not interested or intended to really achieve what you really meant to achieve. You just implement the standard. Your first intent should be implementing any set of standards. And one fine morning or evening or night, you might think, oh, I have implemented, I just want a piece of paper to hang on my wall. You apply and you will get it, but not the other way around, which is very dangerous. So that is what my concluding remark is on. About the question Pinku asked is very important about to become an ISQA surveyor. They announce it from time to time because, as you know, surveyor or assessor training program are restricted to be used by the accreditation bodies, whether it is national bodies or maybe ISQA. So whenever they arise, they announce on the website, and you can apply when they are on. About the ISQA expert, again, they seek nominations, and they also put that sometime on website, but mostly they are seeking nomination from the board members, and board members nominate based on the background of different experts. So that is the way how ISQA. But ISQA is mostly open. You can go to their website, they announce, and whenever there is a opportunity, you can apply for any of the openings. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Rana. Over to you, Dr. Alex.
Right, quickly to just summarize, I guess what Dr. Umashankar spoke about, the cost of poor quality, that is unsustainable for any business. If you look at what Professor Rahul spoke about, starting somewhere, start somewhere. And then you look at what Ms. Mandakini and Dr. Rana shared, wherein you can aim for the sky, which is the Baldrige Awards, which is a tough one to reach there, or you can go through the journey with the basic accreditations that are available. It is specialty specific, it is region specific, it is primary, secondary, tertiary. You've got several of this. Start somewhere, start the journey, and keep the patient at the center of what you are trying to do. And to summarize what Madam Rama was also sharing, that at the end of this journey, we forget the equipment suppliers, and the supply chain is somehow, not, tightly wired within our practices, and it's just one element of the several elements in the accreditation cycle or the certification cycle. And that is a key element. And where there are no regulations, like sometimes in India or certain parts of the world, it gets grossly abused and misused. So if we can get all of this together and keep the patient at the center of this exercise, or the community at the center of this exercise, I guess it would do wonders for patient population and healthcare in general. That's all. Thank you, Raj.
Thanks, Dr. Alex. Over to you, Mandakini Madam.
Yeah, thank you, Raj. It was a wonderful session. Listening to all the eminent participants, the panelists. It was really, they really, each one of them threw the light that what is that beyond the quality and accreditation which we should be thinking on. It was real fantastic. Thanks to you for organizing it so well. And you've been putting in a lot of efforts, Raj. Fantastic. As far as the excellence is concerned, the excellence is like you all will agree, those who have attended my assessor training program, that a pinch of a salt trying to reach the depth of the ocean. And I'm really glad that Dr. Umashankar highlighted that, which actually talks about the entire gist of, the excellence. I'm really very happy about it, and which is a quote from Bhagavad Gita. So I think that is one of the best thing which I think the excellence model can be defined as. And but just to say it in very few words, that excellence is basically 4 dimensions of success, which we should be looking at. It should be inclusive, it should be comprehensive, it should be predictable, and it should be sustainable. So having said that, pay equal attention to your means, which are helping you to achieve your results. And as all of you know, that what are our means is basically your leadership, your strategy, your operations, your workforce, your customers, that's your patients, and your measurement, data analysis, knowledge management, and so on. So thank you very much. Sincere thanks to all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mandakini Madam. Over to you, Dr. Umashankar. You could also address how to design your career in healthcare quality management.
Certainly, Raj. The first thing is continual improvement is the key. The moment you think of improving a system, is the journey starts from there. It is not that you get accreditation or any other certification for you. You think of a change, you think of improving a system. That's the key. Now, most of the students who come out of their who graduate and they look at quality aspirants. So for them, they should look at improving systems rather than having only designations and running around.
Thanks, Dr. Umashankar.
It was a wonderful webinar, and I've been following you throughout your webinar series. It is an amazing work you're doing, Raj. Thank you so much, and thank you for giving an opportunity for me. Thank you.
My pleasure. My team is more delighted to do all these things. So I gain energy from them actually. Over to you, Professor Rahul Rao, for your closing comments. Voice. Yeah. Go ahead, Rahul.
Am I audible? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Raj. This has been a wonderful session and a lot of learnings for everyone, I think. So starting from QA, I came to know about a lot of programs and a lot of good work which is done, which is just like beyond accreditation, and a lot of good initiatives which are taken. So it is just like a really eye-opener of the initiatives which are being taken in India. And coming to cost of poor quality, it has been excellent learning for me, and even Dr. Alex's presentation and Mandakini Madam's Baldrige framework. So it has been awesome. All of these sessions, and last session was really an eye-opener for the industry. I had been consulting and we come across each of these issues, and I'm also connected to Madam through Management System Consultants Forum, where a lot of consultants are added, and we keep on brainstorming on all these issues, practices which are going in the industry. And Madam had clubbed all of these and has given a very good presentation. So really enjoyed the session, and very, very good work, Raj. And just I would like to little bit talk about the question which is raised, regarding career in quality management. So since I am into academics for past many years, and I had been teaching, and I had also on board with many universities. So what I feel is quality management as a subject needs to be taken up more seriously in academics. We just have a paper in quality management in healthcare. So we need to even teach them about NABH, various accreditation bodies, the good work which is done, so that when students they come for a project, they are at least very clear on whether they can align themselves in the field of quality management or not. Many people would not be able to align themselves. So all these things needs to be taken care of in academics, and they should even like the bodies like QAI and NABH and good consultants should work with the students in the projects. So many of the students are still confused, what we should do. So not only accreditation, beyond accreditation also systems they need improvement. So the real handholding of students is also required, and all of us should help us being in the industry. So that is my closing comments, and thank you, Raj. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Rahul. Over to you, Rama Madam. You've mentored a lot of healthcare people, especially in the area of quality. So for an early careerist, how should they design their career? You could as well answer that with your closing comments.
For me, Raj?
Yeah, audible.
Yeah. Can you just repeat that question once again, please? I guess I lost it.
Yeah, so for an early careerist, how can they design their healthcare quality career plan? Along with your closing comments, you could address that.
Fair enough. Thank you so much. I only just wanted to say one thing. Across the globe, there is a demand for responsible healthcare. It is not just in India. Whatever I quoted here, whatever I shared a few things, I have realized regularly by reading in many forums, and especially the digital forums and social media is connecting the healthcare scenario across the globe. So whatever I mentioned, most of the challenges are there in many countries, and these are the global challenges also. And a strong voice is raising and emerging, and everybody is asking for a responsible healthcare. If responsible healthcare is going to be the mandate, each one of us have a huge responsibility on our shoulder to contribute our fair share. Whether you are a healthcare organization, or whether you are a product company or a service company, or the employees, the people who work in that organization, who are educated elsewhere. If there are multiple touch points when we talk about responsible healthcare, so all these touch points have to be touched upon. As Rahul said, you need to teach them at the college level. I would go a little deeper, and I would say teach quality at the school level itself. This is something which I used to say. You don't teach them about the certifications or the standards, but the quality, the way of thinking, the way you look at things. Many things have got to be taught at a young level. So when they are young, let's catch them and let us teach them also. If responsible healthcare is going to be an objective and goal for all of us, maybe let us start working. Let us stop discussing about this accreditation. All this, these are way of life. The business has to sustain and run on a continuous basis. They go for certifications, accreditations. The first step is, let us all take an oath and oath today, at least, that quality doesn't mean it is accreditation or a certification. First, let it start with us. That's it. And how do we go on educating the ecosystem, the communities, the stakeholders, and the various touch points that quality doesn't mean that it is the NABH or an ISO or a QCI or your QAI or a CAP or a JCI or whatever it is. Okay, let us take, we need to have that strong conviction also to accept that, that it is much more beyond all these things. And all of us have a huge responsibility, and let us start contributing in a small way, maybe through this forums like this. What Cure Health is really doing a great work, and by connecting the ecosystem, connecting all the stakeholders. This is what I wanted to say and nothing else, because whether you're a product company, a manufacturer whose products are also coming into the healthcare, they should be, he should be a responsible manufacturer also. Where you supply your digital tech services, you should also have that responsibility, because at the end of the day, all of us are only dealing with the human lives, and we should never forget it. Coming to the other statement, somebody who's aspiring at the start of their career to be in quality, let me tell you, my 28 years, I enjoy every day. I thoroughly enjoy every day, and maybe it's there in my blood, or it's there in my DNA, or it's my passion, because quality standards, the understanding, the conformity assessments, which is nothing but your certifications, testing and accreditations and all these things, inspections. It is a beautiful space to be in, and it's a rich learning. You learn every day like any other domain, but quality is the only function in any organization. I say you are a HR professional, you go in that vertical only. You are an IT, you go in that vertical. You grow only that respective vertical. Quality assurance is the only domain which helps you to grow horizontally. You get connected to all the touch points, all the functional points, all the process owners, all the functional owners, and only a QA person can go and command and demand and question many things across the organization. And this is the only domain, this is the only functional domain in an organization which reports to the management directly. It's a beautiful space to be in, and at the end of the day, you are every quality professional, whether he's inside the organization or serving the ecosystem outside, they have that immense satisfaction at the end of the day that we have contributed to create something good, something beautiful. And because we are technically doing the QA QC check on everything, and helping the organizations also to correct themselves. So it's a beautiful space to be in. For the first youngsters, I tell them, don't even look for anything great in the first 5 years. The real recognition will, at least people will start looking at them and checking them seriously, maybe after 10 years. The real career growth in quality domain and quality assurance professional will actually, they'll have a real break even only after 15-20 years to reach a peak in their career, and they have to really wait that long. But it's a beautiful space, and you don't get that irritation, that frustration, that fatigue that do I have to really get up and go to office today kind of a feeling is never experienced, at least in this domain. And that's my 28 years. This is my 28th year, and I just enjoy every day. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thanks to all the panelists in behalf of Cure Health and Global Mantra. I would like to conclude the session by quoting one of the favorite quotes which I picked from my mentor. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So if each of us embark on a journey towards quality, towards accreditation, we will automatically get to the beyond. The winds of change is coming. Have you got your wings on board? So thank you all. Thanks to the 1,000+ registrants. Thanks to the 424 people who are with us. Thank you all. Thanks to the panelists from the bottom of my heart. Thanks to even the session 1 panelists, who some of them are there with us today. With this, I'll take leave and see you all. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I think these 89 people who are here, 80 people other than us are the most important and valuable for us,
Yes.
Who stayed till
They've got
the end,
real interest.
really quality champions. Yes. Thank you all, dear ladies and gentlemen.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe,
Thank you.
stay healthy.
Pleasure.
Enjoy your evening.
Pleasure
Enjoy
getting connected to all
evening.
of you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.